thank you everybody so much for joining us. As usual, this is the Roots Action Thursday night volunteer call, and we're very grateful that all of you are here for this, and we appreciate you. Just a quick intro, couple updates, and then we will get right into the program. To start, I like to explain, what we do here and what the point of these calls are. And there's 3 basic points. These calls are designed to be educational, meaning that we're going to learn as much as we can. Engaging, meaning we have a Q&A. We want you to engage with us. We want you to ask questions. We want you to answer all the questions you have. And lastly, we want to provide opportunities to take real action in a simple, non-intimidating way that you can invite your friends to next week so that they can also join in. This week, at the end of the call, we are going to be calling and emailing our reps and senators, urging them to pass legislation to impose a 0.1% tax on Wall Street transactions, which will raise $80 billion and allow us to do a whole lot of things that they say we can't do right now. So super important stuff, and we will get to that at the end of the call. We are live streaming on Facebook right now, so feel free to go to the Roots Action Facebook and share that. We will also be up on YouTube tomorrow. So if you want to share this from YouTube, we'll have it clipped and nice and neat, and you can share it from there as well. Amar's looking at my bookcase right now. Yeah, no, secret messages everywhere in there. It's all planned very well. My wife just put it together to make it look pretty, is the reality.
Same.
Right. So a quick update on the No Honeymoon Roots Action campaigns that we've been working on. Most recently, we organized a coalition of 27 organizations urging Biden to halt the use of reckless rhetoric about Putin. And instead, we called for constructive bilateral talks, which is great. And next week, the plan at least is for this Thursday night call to focus on Russia and building peace and our Biden's rhetoric towards Putin and what we need to do to just build a more peaceful world, one where we're not always in fear that we're going to go to war with Russia or China or Iran or whoever the boogeyman of the month is. So looking forward to that. And then the week after, April 15th, we have Abdul El Sayed on, who's going to be talking Medicare for All. And I also plan on getting another speaker as well, but I haven't locked him in yet. But we're going to have a whole Medicare for All conversation, which will be awesome. Lastly, we've started the Roots Action Community Leaders Program. If you're interested in that, please reach out to me, send me a message, or just add something to chat here, and I will loop you in. In that program, we're going to empower you to take action, to contact your representative, to organize in your own community at the local basis, especially once everyone's vaxxed up and we can do more on the ground stuff, because that's where the real impact is. If you have not yet joined our team, nohoneymoon.org, join the team and you'll get regular emails from me about events like this and other things that we're doing. Invite your friends, let people know, share it on social media. It's all good. So without further ado now, let me introduce our guests and hop right into the program. So first we have Amar Shergill, who's the Progressive Caucus Chair of the California Democratic Party. And we have Jeanna Harris, who's and Jeanna, you might have to correct me on some of this. You got a bunch of things. I want to make sure it's all right. The 54th Assembly District Delegate to the Democratic State Central Committee and the second VP of the Culver City Democratic Club.
Yes,
Excellent.
And elected to the Los Angeles County Democratic Party and so on and so on.
Right. Well, you were suggested that you would be an excellent guest. So I'm excited to talk to both of you. I guess to start, and we'll start with you, Jeanna, if that's okay. And I'll just be hopping back and forth between you. And feel free to talk as you will. What is going on in California? What is this election that's coming up and why is it so important?
What's going on in California? A drought. Please send rain. That is low-key a legit ask. Please send rain. But what's going on in here is it's kind of like the party within the party. We're having, and we have been, and I'm not, there's some organizers on here that have been organizing. I came in long before I came in hot and heavy off the Bernie Sanders campaign. I was a DNC delegate, now ×2 for Senator Sanders. Bernie is in my deepest of deepest hearts. And so, you know, we came in and we ran ADEMS, and we had this idea of really wanting to take over and change and do good and make this party a true party of the people. And we have the energy. So it needed to be a little directed, but now you have people like myself, like Amar, like Bill, a lot of people who have now been in, and granted, it doesn't, I know it, like 5 years, 5 or 6 years doesn't seem like a long time, but when it's been nonstop organizing, nonstop war and battles within the party, it seems like it's been 10 or 15 now. So we have, you know, a chair's election going on to who's going to run the biggest Democratic Party in the country. And that's what's going on right now. And that's where we see, that's why I say it's the party within the party, because we are the defectors, we're the faction, we're the nonconformists. We're the ones who are saying, no, we are not loyal to the party, we are loyal to the people, and we want representation that will be loyal to the people. And in the words of my Shiro, Miss Fannie Lou Hamer, because I am sick and tired of being sick and tired of y'all's BS. So that is kind of what's going on in a really broad nutshell. It's still a consistent battle. I'm sure Amar's going to he's going to polish this up a little bit.
Yeah. Amar, same question to you. What's going on with this election for chair in California, and what are the dynamics at play here?
You know, it's interesting that Jeanna mentioned the weather, because we think it's, you know, it's nothing, it's just a drought, but that's actually one of the reasons why the chair's race is so important. You know, very soon the state will be on fire again. And we are still handing out fracking licenses and poisoning our water. We are still housing natural gas in unsafe ways that can blow up neighborhoods and trying to export that gas to other nations. We are still engaging in huge amounts of human suffering that we just don't need to do. When we talk about our medical care system, you know, we could easily institute universal healthcare in California if we had the will. So when you think about those things, and then you turn to the California Democratic Party, what is important about the chair's race is that the California Democratic Party is not democratic at all. It is an elected monarchy, so that you have this person that's in charge, and they are, you know, the home of all power within the party for the entire state for their entire term. They pick all of the appointments, all of the rules, all the resolutions, folks are under their control, and all of the financial decisions, so that they decide which money comes in, they decide which money comes out. And there's very little accountability. We've seen with the current chair, Rusty Hicks, that he made a pledge not to take fossil fuel money. He was directed by the delegates not to take fossil fuel money. And then he took $330,000 worth of fossil fuel money. And you can't do much about it because of the way the party is structured. We saw that he you know, pledged to support survivors of sexual harassment and assault, and then just broke the pledge and refuses to talk about it. So when issues like this are coming up, there's no wonder that folks like Jeanna are saying we're sick and tired of being sick and tired, because even being involved in the party for this long and organizing as well as we have, and it's sometimes coming within you know, a few dozen votes of actually taking over the chair's role, we are still a long way from having real power, and there's still a lot of work ahead. And this chair's race is one place where we can have a big change and big effect really quickly.
And before we get into who's actually running and how you would want people to vote or anything like that, I want to dive into a little bit more of what you said. And Amar, staying with you, you mentioned the fossil fuel money. At the national level, it seems that the money, the donors pretty much power everybody's campaign, all the establishment campaigns on the right and the supposed left, the Democrats. Is that the same thing that's going on there? Is it corporate dollars that are influencing these decisions?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the surprises for me when I came into the party, and I think for most folks, is that on the outside, you look at the party and say, oh, okay, it has this great platform that we publish on the website. It has all these resolutions talking about issues that are out in the world right now that we all care deeply about. and there's activists that are in our community that are part of the party. But the number one function of the party is to take large amounts of money from wherever they have to get it, bring it into the party, and then send it out to candidates. Because candidates are limited in how much money they can take. The party can essentially take unlimited money. So the party's function is to bring that money in, clean it, and send it out. And that's what happened with the fossil fuel money. Take in 330 grand, even though you said you're not supposed to, and then send it out to candidates so the candidates don't have to say, I took fossil fuel money. They can just say, I took money from the California Democratic Party.
Wow. So you're not kidding when you say clean the money. This is like, wow, that's unbelievable. I did not know that. Going to you, Jeanna, Amar mentioned universal health care as something that California could pass if they wanted to at a statewide level. Do you agree with that? And are there other things that you think they could pass? I know with universal health care, that's something they've claimed to want it to do, but they only vote on it when they know it'll fail. Is that a pattern?
Yes. And actually, it's funny you mentioned that because I mean, I don't know, I'm a nurse by career. And so I am working, we have a bill on the table right now in our assembly, AB 1400, which is a single payer bill. And my assemblywoman, now senator, she just got elected to the Senate. You know, she called me before she ran, and my assemblywoman, she's kind of, you know, she leans progressive. She's still pretty progressive. She supported Bernie in 2016, but then kind of, you know, slid a little bit in 2020 and tried to back, what's that guy, Daddy Warbucks out of New York, Bloomberg. And, you know, but the thing about it was that she actually listened to us, the delegates, like us delegates were like, oh, hell no. And we went after her, and she actually kind of listened and rescinded her endorsement, kind of. Either way it goes, she actually told me she wanted to create a health committee. And if I, you know, asking me about her support for Senate, she didn't know if I was going to run for her assembly seat, you know, and she was filling me out. And I really don't, when people are calling me during campaigns, I don't listen to them. I don't care who you are, because you're telling me what I want to hear. You want my vote. You want me to say, yes, I'm going to vote for you. So I was like, right now, strategically, it was like, okay, you know what, sure. And yeah, I'll love to be on your health committee if you make it, you know, because I feel like I could put input. Well, I have a meeting on that health committee next week. So somebody's actually standing up, and she's a co-author on the bill. So now, you know, now that we've finagled, some of us have really worked our way into the party and have made sometimes unconventional allies. We can talk a little bit more on the level. We've gotten past the defenses. So now I'm not an angry progressive that's coming after them. They don't see me what they saw in 2016, that person that was marching out and storming media tents and throwing things, because that was me at the DNC. But now I'm more of an approachable person. I'm rational and I'm understanding. And so they don't see me as a threat anymore. So now I can kind of get a little bit past their defenses. And that's what's going on in the party. Party loyalty is a big barrier to what's going on. And when we had a previous single payer bill, SB 562 in 2017, party loyalty played into that. Our previous governor did not want to be looked at the bad guy of vetoing it. So he had the Speaker of the Assembly fall on the sword, which now he's become a social pariah for doing that. We still hate Anthony Rendon for tabling SB 562. But he took it for Jerry Brown. So Jerry Brown didn't look bad, and that's the loyalty. So now with AB 1400, I'm looking at who is it going to be this time? And I'm trying to target and say, okay, how are you guys going to do it? Because this bill is it's more tighter. And so with universal health care, we could have passed this in the 90s, honestly. The biggest thing they always like to say, we can't afford it, we can't afford it. Well, with AB 1400, I'm taking all the money that we're already getting and putting it in one pot. So let's talk about why we can't afford it. And so, you know, it's all about more of like, they keep coming up with excuses and we keep answering those excuses each time, but now they don't have much excuse. So now they're going to go a little deeper and probably a little darker about why they can't do something. But this time we're not going to let them budge because some of us have been put in places to where we can keep pushing, but it still goes to the point where, yes, they can kill it. Because they still have the power and the loyalty. People are too loyal to the name Democrat, to the blue little donkey, which we probably need a new mascot, but and not to the people. That's the problem. And depending on who it is that makes that call, I mean, it could be our beloved Governor Gavin Newsom who decides to make that call to kill this bill. I don't know who it's going to be, but you know, that's my biggest fear, because every time it's failed in one way or another.
That's really interesting that people just fall on the sword for whatever they get from the party for that. Really, it brings up an interesting question, though. I talked to Judith Whitmer 2 weeks ago, who is the new chair of the Nevada Democratic Party, and they won 4 out of the 5 people who won are like DSAers. Like, this is like, this is a big deal, right? And a question I asked her was, putting into words, I guess, why is it important that people who are on the left, who are progressive, to join their state party? Because it's really hard to convince people, especially young people, that look, you know what's going on. It's hard. It's very difficult to want to join the Democrats when they give up on us so often.
So I say this, and I said this in Philadelphia. I said, look, and this is just me being real. Like I give this transparency thing, like I keep it real. Like I keep it real with patients. I keep it real with my team. I keep it real with everybody. Right now, the 2-party system is way too powerful. We know that. That's a no-brainer. Now, if we all say F the Democratic Party, we're leaving, guess what? They're going to have a huge party. They don't want us here. We're the troublemakers. We're the ones that are not conforming. We don't know the rules. I've been told, I've had the finger wagged in my face for so many things that I don't know, and I need to be loyal and I need to do what the party says. If we left the party, or said, we're not going to join your party, we're going to let them run unchecked. And that's exactly what they want, because they know from the outside, we can't even compete. Even though DSA has put some serious weight up on behind their name, they're not a political party though. And the Green Party, you know, heart is in a good place, but they really need to get their organizing structure together to be able to get really to that 5% that they're going to need to get on the main stage. So for right now, when time is actually, we're in a negative time with climate and healthcare and so many issues, we have negative time. We don't even have positive time. Like we're years behind where we need to be already. We have to take every little inch that we can get. So while I encourage people to be out there organizing with third parties and to be out there, and God forbid if I'm going to get some credential snatch for saying that, but you know, I also say, look, some of us have to stay. And we have to fight. We have to hold the line at least. I mean, we're chipping away. We're actually gaining. But at the very least, we have to hold the line, because if we go, then they run unchecked. Here comes fossil fuel money. Here comes rolling back this, rolling back that. Everything we fight for gets rolled back if we completely leave. Now, some of us stay. Some of us go organize. Great. But like I said, joining the party is basically like the check. You're like the bouncer, you're the sergeant in arms, you're putting them in their place. It's exhausting, it's tiring, and it's very, very disheartening, because you know, you get knocked down so many times, but just know you're keeping a moderate to centrist from having the spot that you hold.
That's excellent, excellent. Yeah, it's similar to what I try to tell people too, is it will be so much worse if we don't. But I hear you on there. Amar, back to you. Let me spotlight my video real quick. This election that's coming up in California, before we get into the who's, why does it matter? Not just in California, but to the rest of the country. And I'm thinking like in terms of how influential it is, and you know, what it says to Democrats elsewhere about what's possible. So I guess to you, why do you think this can matter to people who aren't just in California? Why should everybody care about this?
I think the most direct line is holding the Congress, the majority in Congress. And if we fail here, and if we continue to put forward fickle candidates that don't get people out the door, that don't energize folks to want to vote for them, we will lose seats again. We lost more seats in California in the last election than anywhere else in the country, because you know, we have so many seats to lose. We can't afford to lose another 4 seats in California next election. We do that, we no longer have the House. You lose the House, you cannot get anything done in DC. All of those issues we care about fail right here in California. the chair has an immense power to invest in the things that turn out voters for Democrats, and to encourage the types of candidates that turn out voters for Democrats. In a world where we are carrying the state with huge Democratic numbers, and we picked up a lot of seats, just 2 cycles ago, there really was no reason for us to drop seats in California. And it was just a failure of organizing and administering the political campaign astutely. And we just can't afford that a second time.
Yeah, I agree. And, what's interesting to me is California is talked about, especially by the right and Fox News, as this liberal, whatever words they're using at the time is. There's no squad members in California. So does the chair play a role in that? Does the chair basically pick and choose the winners and losers by handing out that money, that cleaned money?
So I wouldn't say that our chair is the one that's pulling all the strings and that he holds the power on his own. But what happens is the chair is put into place by existing power structures. And usually that's folks that are elected, whether Congress, Assembly, or Senate, and they are powered by massive amounts of corporate money. So if you're friendly to corporations, if you're friendly with that money continuing to cycle through the party, if you're friendly to the powers in the legislature, then you are a vessel that they will allow to be at the head of the party and to continue to protect their power structure, even if it's not the most likely way to elect Democrats.
Got it.
Agree.
Jeanna, do you want to add something?
Oh, no, I was just going to say that it goes back to that loyalty thing. So, we saw it with, Bernie. Bernie won California. I remember that day, March 3rd, I just won my election. He had won his election. I was on cloud 9 because I knew, especially with California being earlier in the primary, I was like, we got this. We just took California. It's on and cracking. See you in DC. I'm booking my inauguration ticket right now. Granted, COVID was about 2 weeks away from then, and so I had no idea. But I actually did have an inauguration hotel booked because I knew Bernie was going because he had just won California. Little did we know how much loyalty plays a factor, because just going on just really quick to the national level, using Bernie as an example, what happened? Isn't it kind of weird that all these candidates just fell behind Biden? And it was very odd. Why would they do that? Biden was trailing, how are you falling behind Biden? Well, that goes back to the loyalty part of the party that you get talked to, like I've been talked to, about loyalty to the party. We must elect Democrats. It's not about people. It's not about issues. We must elect Democrats. That's what we hear over and over again. And now going into the state party, you go to our conventions, it is nauseating with how much, go Democrats. And I'm like, yeah, so there's 60,000 people in my city that are homeless, living in tents, and are hungry right now. So, and we're a Democratic supermajority. Now, if we were Alabama, if we were Kentucky, and we had, Mitch McConnell, maybe an excuse, but we don't have that here. And it goes back to that loyalty issue where people are more loyal to the party. And for example, going into this party structure with, phone calls, she has called me. I'm sorry, I know we weren't supposed to know, but I've got so many phone calls. And what they want to know, can I count on support?
Hey, Jeanna, your mic is cutting in and out.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me better?
Yep, there you go.
Okay. So what they want to know is when they call you, can I count on your support? Now, what I've learned, the first time around, I let them, kind of gas me up and all that stuff. Granted, I was already supporting the Black woman running because I think it's just travesty. We haven't had a woman of color running this Democratic Party in the quote unquote most progressive state in the country. But can I count on your support? And it's like, well, what do I get for it? Well, I promise to do this. I promise not to take fossil fuel money. I do. And I promise for your loyalty. And once you give that loyalty, that's all they want. They're done. You don't hear from them again. Once you say, sure, yeah, fine. You don't hear from them again. So now it's kind of like, okay, well, to divest this power. We need a divestment of the power structure of the chair. The chair can make appointments. Like, we need to change our rules and we need to change our bylaws and able to make it a more progressive organization. But guess who appoints all of those? The chair. If I don't pledge allegiance to the chair, if I don't say, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, yes, I pledge my allegiance to you and I'll go post for you and I'll go fight the fight for you, I don't get appointed to anything. And that means my voice isn't at the table. My chair is way in the back of the convention center. So that's another problem going on. And it circles back around to loyalty. And I'm like, I might as well be just living in the mafia right now.
Right. Wow. Staying with you, Jeanna, let's get into the big question. Who is running for chair? What's the dynamic at play there? And who's the candidate that you think is the best choice, even though maybe none of them are perfect?
Lisa Simpson. No, I'm kidding. So you have our current chair, who was formerly the chair. He's Southern California. So I'm sure we're going to talk about this, but the SoCal, NorCal kind of beef, whatever, it's kind of like East Coast, West Coast beef, but it's just literally in the same state. Rusty Hicks is our chair currently and has been the chair since he took over from a very contentious chair of Eric Bauman. But, he is from Southern California. He used to be the LA Labor Federation leader. And so they look at him like, oh, he can bring in the money. And that's what his campaign is definitely using as a talking point, which he brought in I think $1.8 million in 18 months to the party. Yay. And then you have a more progressive candidate who used to be formerly mayor, and correct me if I'm wrong, mayor of Richmond, right? California. Delane Easton, and she also was a candidate for governor. She stood up and she challenged the coronation of Gavin Newsom. We knew Gavin was going to win. It was kind of like it was set in stone, like it was already like signed, sealed, and delivered. And she stood up and challenged it and provided a more progressive option than Gavin Newsom, even though, to us or to people on the outside, Gavin is definitely like superstar progressive and super good looking and charismatic. But those are the two candidates running for chair right now. So you have Delane Easton and Rusty Hicks. It's interesting.
Amar.
Sorry, to answer the question, it's a union. She was a council member in Union City, then a county supervisor, then the first woman elected statewide superintendent of education.
Okay, sorry, I had that wrong. Everything's blurring together in my mind.
That's okay. Amar, what are your thoughts on the current election, the current chair election and officer seats, and who do you think people should vote for and why?
I think first off, we got to be clear about where our focus is that the chair, like we said, controls everything. So it's all about the chair's race. The other seats are important, but not so much for their inherent duties, which are very limited, hardly anything. It's for their ability to hold the chair accountable. So because they are going to be in the room, they're going to have some idea of what's happening behind the scenes. Are they willing to let us know? So that's how I've evaluated the other four candidates. I mean, I would much rather have somebody that I agree with most of the time, but tells me what the chair is doing, than somebody I agree with 100% of the time on policy issues, but just doesn't have the courage to tell me if the chair is taking, private incarceration money or gig money or developer money behind the scenes without telling us. But when it comes to the chair, you probably can already tell from my remarks, I've been pretty hard on Rusty Hicks over the last month or so. We were hoping that when it came election time, that he would engage in some contrition, some accountability, some transparency on the obvious mistakes that he's made. But he just hasn't. He has just doubled down, stopped taking calls, responding to texts, refused to address things. And when he does address them, just says things that simply aren't true, that challenge any rational person to believe the story that he puts forth on the areas that he's failed. So I am definitely supporting Delane Easton. She is experienced and competent. When she makes mistakes, she admits them and says, I'm going to do better. And she's run statewide elections. She knows how to win. And of course, she's progressive on the issues we care about. She's been with us over and over again. And that's the type of person that you put in charge so that we win those 4 seats that we lost. She is committed to engaging with emerging communities, the voters that sometimes aren't voting, that can easily be the difference in so many districts across the state. When I first met Rusty, I asked him to get involved in these communities that can make a difference. And he's just failed on that. And if you take a look at the 4 House races we lost, you take a look at the communities that didn't vote, we didn't talk to them the way they wanted to be talked to, in their languages, with themes they understood, in a way that engaged them and gets them out the door. So the Hmong community in the Valley, the Sikh Punjabi community I'm a part of down in the Central Valley, the Korean, Vietnamese community in Orange County, the Spanish-speaking community across the state. We failed with all of them, and we lost in the places where they could have held the difference. And we just, like I said before, we can't do that again.
It feels so analogous to the national party, what you guys are telling me about what's going on in California. It's just shocking when the interpretation of California from people who aren't there is that it's this progressive oasis and all these things can get done and everything's possible. But you run into the exact same problems that everyone else runs into. And it's just, that's such a shame. But it's important that there's an opportunity here coming up. When is this election? When do ballots go out? When will people be voting on this?
Ballots are out right now. People are voting, whether online or sending in paper ballots. So it's happening, and we got another couple of weeks to go. If you know a delegate to the Democratic Party, or if you want to find out who they are, you can ask it. You need to talk to these people right now. They're the ones that are voting. They are elected officials, they're appointees, the local delegates that were elected. Find them and ask them who they're voting for, and tell them to make sure that they're not voting for Rusty Hayes.
Got it. We're gonna move into the Q&A now. So I have a bunch of questions people have asked here, and whichever one of you want to take them, go for it. Liz, one of my favorite volunteers, she asked, how can progressives pierce that loyalty? She's responding to Jeanna's comment on party loyalty versus people loyalty. So Jeanna, how can we pierce that loyalty factor? Oh, you're muted.
I'm sorry, you guys. Work phone was still ringing off the hook. They don't appreciate boundaries. I don't have any one way. This is how I'm doing it. Like I said, took that hat off and pierced through the angry. Like, I'm an angry progressive. I'm not reasonable. I don't have, I basically made friends. And with the mods, and because some of them honestly helped me get elected. And they taught me some things. How does this party work? Okay, you say I don't know the rules. Well, tell me, what are the rules? And now they create a little monster, because now not only do I know the rules, it's like now I can apply that, and I have a progressive machine behind me. Mm-hmm. And so that's one way to do it, is to kind of like, okay, look, I'm rational. I'm not here to just argue and yell and protest you. But, I'm also here because I have 335,000 people in my district that are pretty progressive, and they want healthcare, they want affordable housing, they want clean air. I live in the district that holds the Inglewood oil field, which is the largest urban oil field in the country. And I don't know what the hell it's even doing. It's been there since the early 1900s. And if it's even producing oil we use, I do not know. So, these people, I'm like, I'm here as a representative of my district. What can I do to basically, like, we got to work together here. You keep asking for my loyalty. So I flipped the script, and I'm asking for your loyalty, but not to me, but to the people. And I'm like, you keep telling me that we are a party of the people. You want me to whip your votes, but then you turn around and you kill my bills. You completely trash my candidates. I'm telling you what the people want, and you completely ignore me. And so I was like, so now I have a bigger voice with them because I've had these conversations and they're like, well, we've got to still raise money for the party. We still got to pay bills. That's why we can't just stop taking the money. And I'm like, look, there are over maybe 3,900 or plus delegates to the California Democratic Party at all levels of politics, from elected officials all the way down to someone like me. And I'm like, if you asked us to just do a monthly donation of fucking like $10 a month, that's generating a lot of money already. And I'm like, and we would if we knew that we could trust you, but I'm not giving a dime of my money if I can't trust you. If you're still going to take oil money anyway, why would I still give you my money? But at least they hear it. And it's because now I'm an elected delegate. They got to listen a little bit. They want my vote. So like I said, that's the way I do it. I'm kind of piercing through. I'm kind of knocking down walls, being a little bit reasonable, but then coming back and also biting them in the butt because I'm learning from them. I'm learning their strategy. And then I'm applying that and saying, hey guys, you know what they're going to do? They're probably going to do this. We need to move this way and avoid that being pummeled by that train. So, that's just my way of piercing that loyalty thing, is sometimes you get more with honey than vinegar.
I think that's a good strategy and a necessary inside outside, Amar, this next one we'll go to you for. Is there a relationship between the state party and Nancy Pelosi? Or is there a dynamic there? Is she directing anything, or she's kind of stay back, or what's that like?
So I think publicly Nancy Pelosi could not be accused of, maneuvering, controlling the California Democratic Party in any way, but this is a behind the scenes party. So existing power structures are always protected. You're never going to see the California Democratic Party put Nancy Pelosi or her people at risk. And that's just a simple fact. And that's not unique just to Nancy Pelosi. That's true of the California legislature. And, we talked to Arendon before. All of the existing power structures that rely on corporate money to maintain their power, they're not going to be put at risk, whether it's by the California Democratic Party or any other institution. And we should be clear, the Democrats in California have also had some great successes, but the successes, when they come, are places where we're not harming the massive corporate profits. So, if you take a look at last session with Ash Kalra and his racial equity bills and sentencing, there's not a lot of moneyed interest there, so you can get something done. We've had Santiago and his public banking bill. Again, they don't perceive that yet as a threat, so you get that passed. But on issues like fracking, Medicare for all, housing, there's just so much money there that whether it's Pelosi or Rusty Hicks or Rendon, they're never going to put those power structures at risk.
Got it. Thank you very much. I have a couple more questions, but they're a little more focused for me and in our program that we do here. Dr. Saneb, also from Bloomington, Indiana, that's where I went to school. Thank you for that comment. Nice to see more Hoosiers in the chat today. Amar, Jeanna, do you have any kind of closing thoughts that you'd like to leave people with before we move on to our action?
I would just say that, like Amar said, we have had wins, okay? We have made, from this party in 2016, when we didn't really know what it was, to now has been moved left for sure. You don't see those big major wins, but like I said, we chip away a little bit at a time. It is like, you can't just overthrow this machine. It's not something that's going to happen in an election cycle, but we are pushing. And now, honestly, AB 1400 is almost the unifying bill of California, because I have everybody from the chair of the Los Angeles Democratic Party, which is, he and I definitely don't agree on a lot. He's completely supporting it. A lot of, elected officials are definitely on board because we created that momentum. Over this time, we created Medicare for all, thanks to Bernie, is a popular topic on all levels of government right now. And so, we are making progress here. Granted, like I said, it's negative time, so it feels like there's not a lot. And I know for the rest of the country, where you guys look to California as the leader, like if California, you know, if we do it, then you guys will do it. And we are having some, but it's the internal party structure. It's the party against the party. Basically, we have the old party, which is losing power, and we have a new party coming in, which is us, and we're gaining power. And so it is happening. We are making progress. We do have momentum. Like I said, we take hits, but we keep going because we're younger and more vibrant. Whereas the older party, that's that loyalist, well, their sun has kind of set a little bit. And the more, we just need to keep the energy coming in. And that goes back to what we discussed earlier about why I still need people coming into the party, is because I need that energy, because I was tired. I'm mighty tired. And so I need more. We have to keep feeding the energy, because that's the only thing we have, honestly. If it wasn't for our energy and our ability to organize with that energy, we honestly would not be able to get this far. So all over the country, join your party, bring your energy. If you don't want to join your party, join the issue. That's my thing. We keep fighting the issues in the party. Join your issue, whatever your thing is, join it and bring that energy, because we need it, because people who have been doing it even for a couple of years are starting to feel that wearing downness. So that's just my 2 cents. Please keep that energy going, because like I said, it's the biggest thing we have.
That's awesome. And I would just note that, this is the first time we've spoken, but your energy and how well spoken you are, and how much you know about these topics, it's nice when you have leaders that are easier to follow, that are easy to trust, that we could get behind. So I really appreciate you and all your efforts out there. Amar, closing thoughts?
Sure. 2 things. Let's be positive a little bit. When we hear discussion about CalCare, universal medical care in California, we are closer than we've ever been before. And that's because despite all these power structures, despite the Democrats and corporate money, the people themselves are awakening. And we can thank Bernie Sanders and Nina Turner and Ro Khanna and Ash Kalra and so many others for helping get that done. And if my message to you and to everyone is that this organizing task is not going to get done in our homes, is that we have to, as COVID winds down, or find other ways to have conversations with our neighbors. Yes, money works in communication, but not as well as those in-person conversations that we have with our neighbors. If you tell your neighbors what you believe in, and you ask them to come with you on issues that they care about, that they know will make their lives better, will improve the lives of their children, they will follow you. But we have to have those conversations. And it's infectious. When you start talking, you will gain allies that want to do the work with you. So I encourage folks to do that. And then the final thing for me personally, in the California Democratic Party, the place where we hold folks accountable is in the caucus that I chair, the Progressive Caucus. And we have elections coming up for that within the caucus for our chair and our officers. I'm running for re-election to chair, and anybody who's a Democrat can vote in those elections. And it doesn't cost any money. So if you go to Shergill.com, which is my last name, Shergill.com, you'll see a link there to join the Progressive Caucus. You'll be able to organize with us and then be able to vote for folks who are just hardcore troublemakers that are willing to do this work and hold people accountable, even when it's not in their own personal political interest to do so. So go to Shergill.com if you can, join us. Thanks.
Excellent. Well, thank you both so much. It is so much appreciated. I think we got to most of the questions. Linda, I see your question. Yes, we will be continuing these events. They might change in some way, but we're gonna still be here for a while, so no worries there. And I see Jeanna answered Jordan's question in the chat about De Leon over Feinstein, which was awesome.
Can I just add, that was such a glorious, at that convention, Feinstein was making her speech, and she went over her time, and she literally was like, well, guess my time is up. And we were like, yes. I'm sorry, like I said, it's the little wins we have to celebrate. And that was a little win that just sat with my heart, because it was like, she did like a little, it was just kind of like her little ad, like what she said was just perfect. And unfortunately, she's still the senator, but that's going to change. No way is she going to be the senator again.
Is she going to run again?
I heard she pulled papers, but Amar, have you heard? I heard she pulled papers. I haven't heard an official announcement, but yeah.
That's what I heard too, but I find it unlikely. We do have one last question for you, Amar, real quick, and then we'll move on to our action. Sorry. Linda says you talk about the power of voices and conversations and overpowering the money, but that's exactly what we did for Bernie in 16 and 20, and the establishment still coalesced to crush him. I was actually in Iowa for the caucuses there, shooting a documentary about it, and that whole fiasco went down, and Biden was in like 5th in Iowa there, so no one thought he had a chance there. So despite that, he still wins. Any suggestions for countering that?
Sure. And let's be clear, it's not just the political infrastructure that lifted Biden up. It took the largest corporate media ad buy in the history of humanity to turn the country around and come behind Biden. We saw for 2 weeks, every single media outlet, local, national, that's beholden to corporate money, owned by corporate money, was telling folks that Bernie could not win, that everybody's now behind Biden. And they kept pumping that message over and over. And that's a large part of why he won. But let's think about that for a minute. That's what it took. That's not going to happen every time, right? This kind of dynamic is not going to happen every time. We are closer than we have ever been, and we can't give up now. We got to keep supporting candidates that care about the people first, that don't genuflect to corporate profits. We keep talking about these issues. We are closer to Medicare for all nationwide than we have ever been before, right? There's discussions now about forgiving student debt that just weren't happening before. We're increasing minimum wage in a way that wasn't even on the radar, 6 years or so ago. Right. So there, as much as there are things we can talk about which are negative, there is a lot of positive going on. And we got to continue to engage in that fight because we can't afford not to. This is not a fight where, somebody else is going to pick it up. It isn't. This is on us. This is not a fight where if we stop, maybe things will get better. They won't. We have one option, which is to fight and organize for as long as it takes, with as much effort as we can muster to win this battle, to make this planet habitable for our children, to give ourselves a retirement that we can look forward to make a society that's not built on suffering, but that's built on equity. We can do this. We just got to be positive and continue to engage in the fight.
I completely agree with you. And a quick comment from Lucero in the chat. Nice to see you again. I'm glad you're back. She said, and Jeanna answered it already. She said, I'm sorry, S&T, Senator Nina Turner, is definitely running against the entire establishment. Oh, that was Bill's answer, sorry. But she mentioned Senator Nina Turner and how we can help her. And Jeanna responded, let me find my chat is going crazy.
Oh, I just said, no, it's okay, I can respond. I just said organize and GOTV. The bigger the spread, she is going up against the establishment. And the thing is that she's going up against another Black woman that's charismatic, and she's the party poster child. But the thing is, Senator Nina Turner has the backing of the entire country, whereas this candidate has the backing probably of her district in Ohio and some key people in the Beltway. But Nina Turner actually has global support. People around the world know Nina Turner and who she is. And so, but the thing is, of course, like you said, you cannot trust the Dem establishment from pulling shenanigans. The only way, like we keep saying, organize and energy. The bigger the spread of the votes, like if we run away with this to where it is completely not even a question, there's no way that they can pull the provisional ballots, the voter rolls, blah, blah, blah. And we know that Ohio's not, a super progressive voter rights state. So, and then they pushed back her special election to August. And like I just saw, August, she's running away with energy and momentum right now. And that was unheard of for a special election to be pushed back that far. And so they're doing this to give that other candidate time and for her momentum to slow down. So across the country, we have to keep showing her love. Even if for me, that's super busy right now because of AB 1400, I'm throwing her $27 a month. And if this summer I can, I will be going out to Cleveland to help pound the pavement for her. But we just have to keep up with the energy. We need the vote spread to be big. If it's small, they can pull their BS.
Right. And I think you maybe, this is conjecture, but maybe you saw a little bit of playing with it when Martha Fudge's a confirmation just kept not happening. It kept getting moved back. And then eventually the date gets set in August, and it just gives more candidates time. With that, we got to stop the questions. There's still a couple more, but I will send them to Amar and Jeanna as we get them. But we're going to move into our action now. Amar, thank you so much. Much appreciated. Jeanna, thank you so much. Much appreciated. I will say, check us out on YouTube. We had a conversation with Senator Nina Turner a month and a half ago or so on this call. And she's amazing, talking about the fight for 15. She's really fantastic. And I got to have a private chat with her for a little bit too. She's just amazing. I got to meet her in Arizona in like 2016 or so too. So feel good about that. So with that, Amar, Jeanna, feel free to stay on if you'd like, but you feel free to disappear as well. I have the video spotlight on me, so no one will notice if you guys duck out, and it's totally okay. Thank you. You've given us an hour of your time, and I really appreciate it. Thank you both so much.
It was a pleasure.
No problem. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone. And honestly, Senator Nina Turner is honorary California. If she would just move to California, we would challenge Feinstein with her. Just putting that out there. Thank you, everyone, for your time. I've got to go put out some work fires, so I'm going to jump off, but I appreciate you guys for having me.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen now. Hopefully the correct screen.